We hear from the prophet Baruch, who was a friend of Jesus. We hear from the prophet Baruch, who was a friend of the prophet Jeremiah. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus said to his disciples, Is that okay? And Herod was the tetrarch of Galilee, and his brother Philip, tetrarch of the region of Iturea and Trachonitis. Iturea. Mary set out and traveled. From the time of the Annunciation to Mary by the angel Gabriel, to the visitation of Mary to her Elizabeth, to her tax collectors came to him. I think this is important because it might be simple for us to think, if only I had lived in the time of Jesus, I would have John is telling us the exact opposite. Live your Christian life where you are today, with the people you... This is an important teaching for us. This is an important teaching for us. First, let us consider the water. Large containers of water, 20 to 30 gallons each, used by the Jews for ceremonial... But Nehemiah, a fellow Jew who led an army of Darius from Persia in 44 BC, 44? The Samaritans were on their Jewish side. The Samaritans were on their Jewish, that is his announcement of the Jubilee year of the Lord being fulfilled in his hearing. Fulfilled in their hearing. This is the response of those who have reflected on what Jesus is asking, but are This is the reflection of Isaiah the prophet, and then Peter, when each of them encounter God. And the reaction is a universal one. Peter recognizes the holiness of Jesus, and he responds to his own unworthiness. How many A-list Hollywood types are humiliated when their names no longer appear at the top of those invited or welcomed, the members of that passing... let's do this again. How many A-list Hollywood types are humiliated when their names no longer appear at the top of the list of those invited or welcomed to events in that passing... come on. How many A-list type Hollywood... is the sum... We all know how difficult that it is, either from personal experience or because we know people who have expressed feelings of being hurt so deeply that they say, I can never forget him. Forgive. Finally, Jesus tells us not to judge. So John... Hello to all my former students from Verbum Dei High School. I'm very happy to tell you that I have used a digital camera along with this extension. Let's start over. Hello, all my... Hello to all my former students at Verbum Dei High School. A bright light, I happen to use one of these sun lights, but you could use the sun itself or any light source. And then I set my camera to take 3 photographs of each negative. And that way the negative the resulting image in a digital form would allow me to see whether or not a particular negative is a little too dark or too bright. I have 3 different negatives. So then I would use this bright light to take 3 shots of each negative, each one being at slightly different exposure. One a little brighter, one a little darker, and one more or less that the camera thinks is right in the middle. Afterwards, and so then I would hold it up to the bright light, take the 3 shots, and I'd have to focus it first. So now I have 3 images of one of the negatives. I would finish the rest of the negatives, and in fact the big stack of negatives I completed at the beginning of the pandemic. This, by the way, is my old black and white, or my old, this, by the way, is my old Canon camera that I used to take the original photos. Today, analog photography, as it's known, is becoming extremely popular. In fact, some of these cameras are more expensive now on the used market than they were brand new. Now, using a and this, by the way, was my old black and white camera. Black and white. Let's start over. So, hello all.